Hi friends, it's Deanna Willison with Our Blooming Catholic Life. And some of you, just a couple of you, but I'm here saying it to everyone. A couple of you have asked how that driving journey's been going. Does it feel like, say, 6 years that I've been getting driver permit after driver permit? I'm really good at the law test, but nobody practices driving with me like twice because of the amount of screaming I do while driving, because driving was terrifying. When it's just me on the road, it's all good. When there's other cars, it feels like they're coming at me. I don't know how y'all stay between the lines, and it feels like complete chaos to me. I don't know how magically cars go on the road and don't hit each other. And that's how it feels to me. And I'm terrified of going past a parking space and ending up in a ditch that way, or, the parking spaces that are at the edge of a road. Like, how do you not end up with your front end on the road? It's all a mystery to me. And so it's still pretty scary, this far in. And I don't practice drive very often. I just go up and down the driveway. And it just came a point where I put off for quite some time calling my eye doctor and just saying, look, I can't do this. Oh, wait, I'll caveat this. One day, my son said to me, my adult son, he was driving, and I kind of screamed a little, and he was like, Mom, that car wasn't even close to me. Tell me what you see. And I described it to him, and he said, that's not normal. That's not how I see it. And so, yeah, then I put off calling the eye doctor. I finally called the eye doctor, and I just left a message saying, look, my glasses make my vision so much better, but I still feel that my depth perception is completely off. Like when I look downstairs, they seem monumentally far away. I mean, the glasses help that. So it's not quite the Grand Canyon, but it's still very scary standing at the top of steps. And I feel like that's not how everybody sees steps. And if I'm trying to drive, everything seems closer to me than it actually is, or if I'm in the passenger seat. And after my son said that to me, I started paying attention to things, and I realized how I was distracting myself when other people are driving. So I'm not really watching the road. I'm like looking for deer, or reading signs, or knitting, or crocheting, or reading a book. And I get dizzy so easy when other people are driving. So I'm saying all this when I call the eye doctors, and I say, basically, is there anything else you can do for me? Is there any hope of this getting better? I just need to know this. I'm 53. I need to know, is this going to get better the more I practice driving? Is this a thing? And she gave me a reference. And the reference she gave me, I giggled. I knew the name. This is a developmental optometrist. I think optometrist is the right word. A developmental optometrist that a lot of homeschooled children in our homeschool co-op back in the day when I started homeschooling, people bantied his name about, that he was so amazing with the hardest cases of kids who weren't able to read. It turned out they had something wrong with their vision that could be corrected. It wasn't a simple, like a 20/20 thing. There was literally something wrong with their eyes, the muscles, the nerves and things. Anyway, so I knew his name, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely. A little weird that it's a children's doctor, but I'd heard about him, and I'd heard great things about him. Took me like a month to be able to get in and see him. We saw him today. I'm still processing everything. I'll say the little tests he did, some of them were clearly done for children, because it was like cartoon animals and things. So a variety of tests, and it hurt. Like, my eyes were watering nonstop, and I was like, man. Previously, one of my eye doctors had said, you're probably spending too much time online, when I complained about my eyes watering so much. And I'm like, wait, because I don't know what that had to do with my eyes watering, because my eyes weren't watering when I was online. They were watering later in the day. And he said, you probably have dry eye, and gave me these eye drops to try and take. I'm really bad at taking eye drops. So I did give that up after a while. Plus, it didn't seem to be making a difference. And as I'm trying to do this test, I was trying so hard to see the things and stuff he was asking. I was like making my eyes do things clearly they did not want to do. There was a time when it was a scale of numbers, and there's an arrow, and you had to say where the arrow was pointing, and that arrow would not sit still. And I was kind of freaking out, and he showed me, yeah, the arrow never moves. That's you doing that. But like it was like I was pouring down. And it hurt. He's like, I can see you're getting dizzy. Do you have, like, tell me how you feel? And I was dizzy, and I had a headache, and my eyes were getting sore, and they just couldn't stop watering. He's like, okay, we'll move on to the next set. Don't worry, they're different. And he did the one where you look in it, and it automatically moves images. It's like at the end of the road, there's a hot air balloon, and we did that one. And then he did the one where you look at something right at the end of your nose, and I'm not going to do it because it's horrific. My eyes don't both follow it. One of them will go here, and the other one's looking somewhere else. So maybe you can see that now. Maybe you can see that in my videos. He actually asked me, he did it once, and he said, give me your phone, and I thought it was another test. And I get my phone, and I'm like, I did it. Like, that one wasn't that hard. I don't know what you're measuring. He's like, open the photo app, okay? And he took a picture of it, and you can clearly see one of my eyes is focused on the thing that's here, and the other one is somewhere else. He's like, yeah, your eyes are not, they're not team players. So what he told me was, and I'm reading directly from a handout here, there is more to vision than 20/20 eyesight. Eyesight is a gift from God. Vision is a learned skill. Vision is a learned skill. Whoa. So he had 4 different areas for vision. It involves sensory, motor, perceptual, and cognitive senses. So the problem is, my sensory is like the 20/20 in ocular health. That's what my glasses is fixing, the sensory. But the motor, my eye movements and my eye teaming, they aren't doing what they're supposed to do. So it's throwing off my perceptions and my cognition. And he was like, here's the thing, you've marked this whole history chart up, and like I could have guessed, but he's like, but you're not marking problems with reading comprehensions and difficulty reading. And I'm like, well, I did these reading clubs when I was young and stuff. And I was like, okay, once I was reading your handout, the questionnaire, the history you gave me, I started realizing things like, I do tend to follow you see me. If I have a script, I can't read it and be on camera. And when I read, I tend to do this, right? And you've seen me, I'm reading annotations. How many times do I use the sticky tabs and color coding things? You know I do all this to bring you these videos. This is something that's normally diagnosed and corrected in childhood. It was not with me, and apparently I adapted. I did what I had to do to survive. And friends who have been in Bible studies with me, my students, this is why I'm color coding charts and graphs. This is why it was so much easier with kids with different disabilities to be classes with me, because, hey, I'm one of you. And so I was exhausted after the testing. I won't lie. Physically, mentally, my eyes just hurt. And I'm trying to process all of it. And he kept saying at the end, like, do you have any questions? What's the diagnosis? I'll give that to you. He had it down here on convergence insufficiency. Fancy, right? Convergence insufficiency. It sounds like some kind of sci-fi book. So that cracked me up. So then you get that word, and he's like, you're going to Google it when you get home. He's like, it's all good. I'm going to show you some things from the Mayo Clinic and from NIH. He gave me some handouts. And he talked about how two ways, not really two ways you get it. One is developmental. You develop something, you don't develop quite 100%. And the other way is concussions. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. Because this wasn't corrected, I fell down the stairs like all the time as a child. All the time. I've gotten better as I've gotten older, but it's really only gotten a lot. Like, I can't remember the last time I fell down the stairs, but that's saying something. But I've tripped in parking lots. I trip around the house. I walk into things. If you know me, if you've been a student of mine, whatever, you know, I'm always having difficulty. So I'm like, have I had concussions? Yes. He's like, did you ever lose consciousness? I'm like, dude, at this point, I don't know. I ain't saying dude, but I was laughing. I was like, you don't understand. So like, I'll give you an example. As a child, I'd fall down our steps, and our steps had a landing halfway, and it turned 90 degrees. And on that landing, because normally I'd roll down it, hit the landing hard, right? Hit the wall at the end of the landing hard. And my mom had a shelf with a bunch of ceramic things on the shelf. And every time I hit it, the shelf and the ceramic things would fall on me. And I'd probably be laying there for a while until someone noticed or someone helped me. And if I moved, the ceramic things would break more and I'd get into more trouble for breaking the ceramic things. So I tended to stay still whether or not I'd pass out. So, and there's no judgment there. It is what it is. But I was like, I can't answer that question if I ever lost consciousness. I don't know. I don't know at this point. It was so commonplace. Whatever. Like, that's my life, dude. So what is it developed? He's like, I have to feel this is developmental, but also you've had concussions. So it's a little more complicated than the usual cases. Usually, like, it's one or the other. He's like, yours seems to be a combination probably. But he's like, there is hope possible. I can probably correct this. He's like, you're one of the more severe cases I've seen, and that's because of the impact on your life, like with the driving and things. He's like, and that's because it's gone on for so long, and you've adapted the best you can, but you found a limit to that. And he's like, I think vision therapy will help you, but we'll discuss that at a further meeting. It's the complication of if there's damage from these concussions. So whatever, it's going to take a month before I can get back in to go over all the results and then start this therapy, vision therapy. So I think you do some sort of exercises, both in the office under his guidance as well as at home. It's like PT in occupational therapy. You do some in the office, you do some at home. So you had to drive home. I'm exhausted. My eyes hurt. My mind's reeling. And that was a lot. We stopped and got lunch. We came home. But like, I couldn't do the tests. And you know me, I'm a nerd. I've got 2 master's degrees. I can do tests. I felt stupid, which my husband says basically is stupid, because it wasn't an intelligence test. But I couldn't make my eyes do what I wanted them to do. And I didn't like that feeling. I didn't have any control over that. And I felt inadequate. And that's the second part that's really hitting hard. All of those names that I've been called over the years, the klutz, the dingy, the ditz, all of those things really were hitting home. I'm not playing the victim card, but those names aren't who I am. And they never were, and they were always mean. But still, it's a beautiful moment to reflect on that and feel the reality of that. We say that to people all the time, and it's like, it's not your fault. We say it to people all the time, and it still feels like your fault. And so it was just a beautiful moment of God's grace in my life saying that. So, I mean, the testing did show something was wrong. Not my imagination. There is a diagnosis. There is help that is possible. And then there's a healing of some wounds there, and still dealing with that, and it's a lot, but some of you have asked, and I thought it was easier to make this video than to try and describe it. And there are moments where I'm excited and I wonder what the future looks like. Like, what do you guys see? What would life be like without occasional blurry double vision, without not being 100% sure? And he's like, you do have depth perception. He's like, you have to force your eyes to focus, but when you focus, you can get it. It explains why I get it explains like so much, and it's so much to process right now. I don't know what a normal person sees, how they see. This is all I've known. I'm 53, so it's a little overwhelming. And he did say, yeah, don't bother getting the permit again. It's gonna be a hot minute till we get you up to the point where you'd be able to drive. That is definitely in the realm of possibility, but it's not for a while. He's like, go get a state-issued ID instead. That's the way to go. So I'm going to do that. So if anybody wanted that update, and for people out there who know there's something wrong, and it hasn't been diagnosed, and you can't figure out what it is, there's help. It's not your fault. And God is good. That's all. Thanks.